Welcome to A Day for Adventure, the premier outdoor podcast that'll get you off your butt and outside. I'm Trevor.
I'm Ben.
And I'm Will.
And for this episode, we're going to be talking about hiking boots and why they're important. So, leading straight into it, why are they important? Well, when you're out hiking boots give you a much better feel and support in your foot when you're walking around than your conventional tennis shoes or whatever footwear you decide to wear. So the big thing with feel is that when you're hiking, whether it be an hour-long hiking trip to week-long hiking trips, you're constantly using your feet in rough terrain. So not your normal sidewalks or classrooms or floors, whatever you walk on. And so all hiking boots have cushioning built into them to support the bottom of your feet, the sole of your feet when walking around. And then also they come up around your ankle in case you trip, fall, get your foot stuck in a log, any of that, to keep you from breaking or spraining your ankle. Also, another important thing that hiking boots have that conventional shoes don't is waterproofing. The biggest thing when it comes to waterproofing is you have some boots that basically have no waterproofing at all. And then you have some that are completely waterproof, and the only way to get your foot wet is to pour water down the opening your foot goes in. But the thing to watch out with waterproofing is the more breathable they are, which is personally, I like a more breathable shoe. Feet sweat a little less. They don't have much waterproofing. But then you turn to your fully waterproof ones, or at least the closest you can get to fully waterproofing, and your feet sweat a ton of that because there's no breathing to them at all because it would let water through. And there's some places that don't even allow those. Ben and Will might know better, but at Northern Tier, you have to have boots that, what were they? You called them drainable, correct?
Yeah, they were able to be drained.
Yeah,
just because in those fully waterproof ones, if water does get in, it doesn't get out, as where breathable ones, the water can leak out, drain out, stuff like that. So when you're walking around in water and have your foot in water all day, it kind of sucks. Leading into that would be, when is it appropriate to get hiking boots?
So an important idea with hiking boots is to think them as the next level of your gear. When you're starting out, you can use essentially tennis shoes for your simple day hikes. It doesn't matter if your feet get wet because you're not going to be spending a lot of time on your feet, or you're not going on as much difficult terrain. The hiking boots are when you want to take your hiking up to the next level and you want your feet to be able to take that type of punishment. So there are two main types, and that's the length of the hike and the difficulty of the terrain and weather conditions. If you are constantly hiking, either that being a longer term week-long or doing it almost every weekend, you'll want boots that can bear the brunt of that use, as tennis shoes can be thoroughly trashed even after just a week of hiking and camping. Additionally, if you're going on those longer trips, a blister or some sort of foot-related injury makes your life a lot tougher than if you got that same injury on a 1-hour stroll through a park. On the other hand of the spectrum of difficulty, if you are going for the more intense and difficult terrain, your hiking boots will end up giving you more support that can help stabilize your ankle, and will also have the waterproofing if you're going through more marshy terrain, while still having the durability to take anything from rocks and basic brush without damaging your feet.
All right, now let's talk a little bit more about the importance of fit of your boots. So when you're out selecting a boot, I highly recommend that you go find a place that is going to be able to let you try a boot out, that'll have somebody who can help you out to select the type of boot, and that a place that will allow you to walk around in those boots more than just like around the store a little bit. Because you really want a set of boots that is going to fit your feet and is going to be comfortable right off the bat. So truth is, a set of hiking boots isn't really going to feel comfortable right out the gate, and probably odds are is not going to be, it's going to be kind of awkward. So, for example, when you walk on your feet or get on your feet at the beginning of the morning, you usually will have your standard foot size, right? But as you begin to walk on that foot, and as you walk on it for maybe an hour, maybe you put load on your back, you will actually find that your foot will actually swell. It will actually expand out, flatten out over the day, and it will actually increase in size. Surprisingly enough, I know it sounds crazy, but trust me, this is a real thing. So what will actually happen, for example, I am naturally a 10 and a half in my foot size. So I got a little bit larger feet, right? But when I am selecting a hiking boot, I have never been able to select a hiking boot that is anything smaller than a 12. And every time my mother that we go and get a new hiking boot, my mom just goes, "Are you sure you need a 12? Are you just trying to show off?" I'm like, "No, Mom, trust me, I need a big boot." So my feet expand out quite a bit. Now, when you're trying out a shoe, you got to remember, of course, to put on a proper hiking sock and preferably a liner sock under it as well. But that's your preference. You don't want to buy something that is too small. You really need to try the shoe out. If you can walk before you try the shoes on, I recommend it. You will find, though, that sometimes your foot's just going to gravitate towards a hiking boot that's going to be of a larger size than you expect. My older brother, who worked in selling hiking boots and stuff for a little while, he always told me that he recommended that people go a size up from what they normally wear in their normal shoes, which, again, from my experience, is pretty accurate. So the other part of the importance of fit is you have to break your boots in. It's so important to break them in, because otherwise you're going to get tons of blisters when it counts. So break your boots in when it doesn't matter all that much. So like if you're going out to work, or you're, I don't know, you're just going on a hike in your neighborhood or walk in your neighborhood, wear your boots so that when you go on a longer event, you don't have poorly fitting shoes. A bad set of boots will be absolutely breaking on a person. Quite literally. As for how do you break your boots in, really it's just walking on them. You just need to walk them. If you can get them wet. Some people say that if you get your boots wet, if you walk through puddles, you'll break your boot in faster. I don't know if that's really true. I know it is true if you're putting on leather boots. If you're working with leather boots, that is, I think, a thing. But the key to that is you have to wear it after and then let it dry while you're wearing your boots. So you have to actually like break it in over the span of an entire day. But generally speaking, it takes, depending on the boot, it'll take between 50 and 100 miles to break in a boot to the level of comfort. But if you buy a good boot, don't worry, you'll probably be able to get upwards of 1,000 to 2,000 miles out of a set of boots. My set of Vasks that I have, those things easily have upwards of 1,200 miles on them without a sweat. And I've only had them for 2 years. They are my favorite set of shoes. I'll wear them every day. And a good set of boots should feel like your most comfortable set of shoes. The key to that, though, is you have to break them in. Before they're broken in, a set of boots will be the most uncomfortable, the most like annoying things to wear every day. But just trust me, break them in. Break your boots in.
All right, so I actually want to take just a few steps back to where you were saying buy bigger size shoes than like your normal standard size shoes. And I do definitely believe that's a thing, but I'm kind of surprised that yours is a whole size and a half bigger. Personally, I just go half a size bigger, but that's just because my foot is already a 8.5. I have really small feet. So finding a 9's easier than finding a 9.5. And they still seem to fit perfectly fine to me. But yeah, I just wanted to chime in because saying a size and a half bigger sounds surprising even to me, but just half a size to a size bigger is a very normal thing.
Yeah, I think a lot of the reason for me that it's a size and a half over is the fact that I walk on my tiptoes all the time. So for me, I put so much load on the front that my foot when I'm walking naturally, my foot extends out quite a bit, which is, I think, the main reason why I have to have a size or like a half a size larger than usual. But it's my older brother, from his experience, always told me go a size above what you have, because odds are it will fit your feet best in the widest range of situations. From his experience, for some people it is only a half size above. Some people it even is the same size. I don't really know, but if there's it's not really a scientific thing. It's just kind of it's a hidden secret, common sense, weird thing going on. It's vibe.
The important thing is to be trying your boot before you buy it, just like any type of clothing or shoes. But with boots, you want to be extra picky due to the price and the wear it'll have on your feet. This includes testing to see if you kick the shoe, do your toes jam against the side? Is your feet sliding around? Is everything snug, or is something feeling constricted? All of these parts of wearing a boot need to be essentially ideal if you're going to be spending that type of money and putting that type of time investment into breaking in the boots.
Yeah, a good thing for breaking in boots that I found worked out after the fact, sadly, but that's a story I'll go into right after this. But I found it great that to wear your boots to school, if you're in school. If you're in work, you might have like some type of dress code, or private schools have dress code. Anyway, because no one cares really about your shoes when you go to school, you get to be on them all day. If you'll probably end up kicking something on accident, so you'll feel how they fit. Well, you should know how they feel by this point, but breaking them in, taking them to school, walking around with them, it gives you your 8-hour day or however long school is, just to walk around, break them in, walking from class to class. And a blister is easier to take care of in class or in between classes than out in the woods.
And another thing about breaking in is that the time it'll take will vary on the boot. The boots I've been using personally have had very little time needed to break them in. It's been usually wear them for a week to 2 weeks and they're good to go. But some of the more heavier, hardier boots may take more time, as
Yeah,
Ben
and
said.
honestly, if you're not sure that they're broken in all the way, just go for some extra walks in them, because that story that I just referenced, I'll tell right now. I got my boots, a nice pair of Merrills. They're probably the most basic. At least they're pretty basic in scouting. And I wore them around to some of my national youth leadership training developments, and I wore them the entire week we were there. So there's a good amount of walking. And I'm like, all right, this is great. This is fine. I'm gonna leave it at this. And I brought them to Philmont, and boy, were they not broken in enough. I ran out of bandaging for blisters in the first week of the 2-week trek that I was there, and I ran out of duct tape a week and a half into that same 2-week trek. So it was bad. Just breaking your boots.
I seem to recall William having a fun time with blisters at the first time we went to Philmont. I think, if I recall correctly, your feet were pretty much a piece of duct tape.
I've seen that. Really?
No.
No?
By the end of Philmont, I had one blister on the back of my foot, and that was around like the last few days I started developing it. But other than
Really?
that,
Because I had
was
15.
actually pretty fine.
Was that Jacob then? Do you think that was Jacob? Because I remember somebody had.
Michael had a rough time.
I can tell you for my crew, when I did OATC, for people that don't know, that's Operation Arrow Trail Crew. So I went out to Philmont, same camper we're talking about, and I did some work and then I did some hiking. Anyway, there was a kid in my crew that did have what Ben described, where his foot was wrapped in duct tape. It's a thing for blisters.
It's a thing. But you don't want your feet to be in that position for any length of time. It is easy to get trench foot when you're out in the boonies, as we'll say. On longer trips, that is actually a concern. I know it sounds crazy, but it is a concern. So you do want it. Taking care of your feet is really important. And the first step to taking care of your feet is to do all the preventative stuff, like breaking your boots in. So yeah, we're kind of putting a couple stories forward to try and get that across. But on this very serious note, breaking in your boots is so important. We have all learned from our mistakes so that you don't have to.
And one thing I just want to throw in, going a little way back to when to get hiking boots. I mentioned that I got mine right before Philmont. So I had been in Scouts for 5 years, probably by then, in Boy Scouts, 4 or 5 years, with all our weekend hikes and stuff. And that's when I bought my first pair of brand new hiking boots, was the summer of 2016, going into my first 2 week long trip. So my suggestion is, if you're going to go on a summer trip like that, buy them in the winter and wear them around, because then they'll be broken in for sure. I waited, and that's not what you should do.
And speaking of buying boots,
Yeah.
they can be pricey. It's a lot of camping gear is an investment that if you take care of them, they should last a long time. And this is also, again, a more advanced set of gear than just your tennis shoes and your random backpack. This is why we stress to make sure these boots fit well before you buy them. A good quality hiking boot can become anywhere from $80 to $120, if not more, depending on what you go with.
And that's actually, and 120 is about the minimum your 80 to 120 is about the minimum on that. A lot of the boots that people I remember going on adventures with myself, they were using boots upwards of 300 plus. The truth really is that, buying boots, it's definitely an investment. It's going to be the cost easily of 2 or 3 or 4 pairs of normal shoes. But I'll tell you right now, they'll last a lot longer than a set of normal shoes. So it's definitely worth the cost. Just note that a set of boots that's 120 or 130 bucks will probably last the same amount of time as a set of boots that is 500 or 600. So that's something to keep in mind.
Yeah, the pair of boots that I bought were, I think I got them for 120 bucks when I first bought them. And me and Will were actually talking about them before this podcast started. So I looked them up, and funny enough, they're on sale. And they're at $87, which actually isn't too bad of a price for them. But they're on the older side. I bought them back in 2016, so they've been out for at least 4 years now. It might have been good for all 4 of those years as well.
My current boots cost about $80 to $90. The same brand and same model that I've been using for a while. And on the best, they can last multiple years. Or depending on what your job is, they could last 8 months. But in exchange, you're working, I put in over anywhere from 60 to 80 miles a week when I was working Summit.
Really put that much hurt into your boots?
Was less on wear and I got a hole walking through brush.
Okay, because I know I bought a pair of brand new Vans, so just canvas shoes, before I went out there. And in 3 months, yeah, I ripped them up because they're canvas shoes. But
that was also on top of a bunch of hiking and walking through the earlier of the year as well, because hiking boots for me end up turning into my normal non-work shoes.
That's the same thing for me too. My first set of boots, the set I bought at the beginning of 2015, was a set of old High-Techs. And normally people don't recommend High-Techs for some reason. I don't know why they don't recommend them, but that set of boots cost me $83. And they were on sale at the time, or actually no, they were like $75, and they were on sale from like $83. They're normally $83. But I bought that set of boots, and I wore those things from 2015 to 2019, about July. I finally set them down, and I had put upwards of 1,000 miles on them that I had recorded hiking, and then probably another 1,000 just wearing them on a daily basis. So, and the only real issue they had was that the sole was starting to get a little bit ugly. That was really all with it. So a set of good hiking boots will last you a really long time. My new set right now, I think my new set of Vasks, these were 130. These were supposed to be like 130, but I got them on sale for like 110. And I have actually put the same amount of miles on this set of boots as my old high techs, and these probably have probably another 500 or 600 miles, probably about 200 or 300 miles of trail hiking on them. But I use these things for literally everything. I even learned how to skateboard on these.
That's
And I gave, yeah, I did. I'm not lying. I learned how to longboard
there's a
on
difference between
with a set of
longboarding and
Vasks.
skateboarding.
Well, and skateboarding. I learned how to skateboard on them too because somebody pulled out a skateboard, and I learned how to skateboard and make the board go in the air.
Go buy a pair of Vans.
I learned how to, and I actually, yeah. So it's it's a good set of boots. It'll cost you a little bit, but it'll cost you more than your set of Yeezys. But I can guarantee, maybe not your set of Yeezys, but your normal set of hiking or boots will cost you more than your normal set of special sneakers. But I guarantee you, it'll last you way longer.
You think they'll make
than
hiking boot Yeezys?
I don't know. That would be ironic.
I want to stroll into
ironic
Philmont with my hiking boot Yeezys.
Pretty much every boot that everybody's got on is a set of Yeezys at that point. If it's like my boots are red and everybody thinks it's like the coolest looking boot, and I'm like,
I always get comments. My old boots, they were my dad's. He got them in the 90s, and that is what I used when I first started hiking. And they have a turquoise Nike swoosh. Yeah, they're Nike hiking boots. That should date them, first off. Second off, they have a turquoise swoosh on them, and everyone notices that. And there was only one time that I put a hard amount of hiking into them. But besides that, I only used them for my day hikes and some weekend hikes when I first joined Boy Scouts or crossed over, whatever. But I took them to the 2017 National Jamboree where I worked as a trek guide, which meant I was taking kids up and down Mount Jack. And I lost my Moabs. Just couldn't find them. My Merrill Moabs. And that's what I have right now still. Ooh. I just couldn't find them. I think they were under something. My mom found them like 2 days after I got to camp. So I was wearing my my 90s Nike hiking boots the entire time and just walking up and down Mount Jack, taking groups of kids. And well, the fact that they were a decade and a half old meant they were really nicely worn in. But they still worked great. And just a random anecdote, my last day that I went up Garden Ground, I didn't wear them because I wore my Vans for the sole purpose of I couldn't fit them in my backpack, and they had a obstacle course, a mile-long mini Spartan race obstacle course at the top, and I wanted to run that, but I didn't want to run it in my hiking boots because I wanted to be able to move my ankles a little more. So I couldn't fit my Vans in my backpack, so I hiked up Garden Ground in my Vans. And I will admit I was worried about breaking my ankle at one point. But I made it. I survived. Surprisingly, didn't get any blisters. And then I ran an obstacle course in them. So shout out to Vans as well. But no, I wouldn't recommend those for hiking. You'll lose an ankle. If you get the pros, they do have the cushioning, though. That was my lie to myself of why I'd be fine to hike with them.
Yeah, you got to get the cush.
That's actually what the cushioning for Vans is called, cush. It really is.
Oh, man. I know.
Love those shoes. Those are my everyday
So I made it. All right. Oh, you made a comment there about ankle support there. I figure it's probably something important to make a comment about. You don't have to get like a hiking boot per se that has like a massive ankle support that goes well above your ankle. What you want to be able to have a boot that you can easily move in. Having ankle support really just allows you to be able to, like, it helps you bear a heavier load a lot better. And on top of that, if you trip, you're not as likely to twist your ankle.
Yeah,
Keyword is
that's
not
true.
as likely. Because I have met people who have twisted their ankles and were sitting on the sides of the trail with sets of boots. Really, you just like choose a good ankle height. For me, I kind of like my boots to have a slightly lower ankle. And I think, if I recall correctly, William, your set of boots, the ones that you wore up till I think like last year, was it? They're I never really picked up on getting a set of lower ankle boots until I saw Williams, and I was like, huh, why didn't I think about buying those? Why didn't I think about buying one with a set of the lower ones? And I got one with a set of lower ones, and I'm really happy with them. But sometimes some people are going to want like very little ankle support. Other people are going to want a really high ankle. It all depends on what you want. You got to kind of just wear some boots and figure that out yourself.
Yeah,
Um,
it's all on preference. I
it,
have my two hiking boots and my working steel toe boots have the higher ankle just because, well, two of them I got for free. And the one that I did choose out, I've been used to it. It's just what I like now. Yeah, I get a higher ankle just because.
the other thing I guess to also put into consideration about the type of boot is going to be the weight of the boots. A heavier boot is going to be a little bit more tiring to wear over time because remember that's moving mass, it's reciprocating mass, and it takes more energy to move a heavier boot. For example, my set of high techs were, let's see, they one of my high techs was the same weight as both of my Vasks. I kid you not. And I'll tell you, that definitely made a pretty big difference between wearing a lighter boot and a heavier boot. There are advantages to a heavier boot, like they're usually going to last even longer. They're going to be tougher. They're going to give you more protection, all that kind of stuff. But
They're usually more waterproofed as well.
yeah, they are going to be more waterproof. But I will tell you that a lighter boot does feel pretty nice. You know, a light hiking boot will feel as good, if not better, than a good set of sneakers. That's why I find that I pretty much wear my hiking boots every day, even though I don't need to.
So we talked a little bit about it earlier, but when you're looking to buy your boots, it's important on where you go to buy your boots. If it's your very first pair, I would definitely suggest going to like an REI or a Gander Mountain where they have people there that know what they're talking about. And some places have specific hiking boot or even just like shoe area people that, again, know what they're talking about, will help you try things on, let you walk around the store. I know some REIs, it's for climbing shoes. They have a wall where you can climb in those shoes. Now, you won't be climbing in boots, but you get the point. It's something where you can walk around more than just a lap around the shoe shelf area. Now, me personally, my first pair of hiking boots, like I said, were from my dad. So used hiking boots aren't bad if they fit you because they're free. Well, if you get them from your family, they're free or cheaper. The most important thing with used hiking boots is just making sure that they fit you and that they're in good condition. But my first pair of boots that I actually went through, paid for, tried them all on, I actually got at a Rogan's or a Payless shoes, one of those two. One that has a large selection of shoes. Now, the guy that I worked with didn't know as much about hiking boots as like an REI person would. But if you know what you're looking for, it's kind of okay to do it yourself. But again, you're probably looking at your first pair of hiking boots right now. I would drive if it's like an hour or two. Like when I'm in college, the closest REI is an hour and a half away. I would rather drive out there to have someone help me find my first pair of boots than just go to like, I can't think of a shoe store in Platteville, but like go to my Walmart and try to find hiking boots there.
Yeah, I agree with you. Going to an REI or going to a place that actually sells shoes or like boots and has people who know what they're talking about is a completely invaluable source. It's so important, especially with your first set of boots, to get a good set. Again, because it is an investment. So a part of that investment is going to a store and getting the right kind of service. The kind of not the kind of service that's just trying to sell you a cool looking shoe. We're talking REI. They don't care about selling you a cool looking shoe. They're trying to sell you the best shoe they can for you, because a boot isn't just a fashion statement. It's a tool. So you want to be getting the best one you possibly can. So if you got to drive 2 hours to go to an REI or to any other places you can think of, like maybe like it used to be Gander Mountain, you could get it. They had good service there, but they shut down.
Didn't Gander reopen under a new name or something like that?
It's Gander Outdoors now.
I don't know if they have boots.
But I don't know if
actually.
they do
I haven't been in
shoes
the new
anymore.
ones.
But essentially, like, I can guarantee you that it's well worth the gas mileage. It's well worth it all, because for your first set, you will learn so much about what you want from going to a store. Even if you decide not to buy from that store, even if you decide you didn't really like any of the sets, you now know some things about boots that you can use to buy a good set. Yeah, I think that's really all I got on that.
An important thing with going with shoes, even if you're not picking up your boots from an outdoor outfitter, such as REI or Gander Mountain, is to, at the very least, like we've said before, be able to try them on for a decent amount of time. The exchange with a lot of the shoe places is that while they may not have the best selection of hiking boots designated for backpacking and at the higher end, there's a higher chance that you can find something more affordable or find a better deal just on a case-by-case basis. Some of the outdoor outfitters have fantastic deals once you start getting more familiar with the store, but as a first-timer, you'll likely find something decent for a bit cheaper at just a normal shoe store.
Yeah, it also comes to depend on brands too. If you go to a place that's not outdoor oriented, certain brands might be actually more expensive than your normal store just because they don't carry a large stock of them. They don't make as much money back on them. But then there's some brands that are cheaper just because, well, it's not an outdoor store. They know that people aren't going there to get hiking boots. They're going there to get a wide variety of shoes. So it would be more appealing then. So I guess if you just find one that you like, do some research on the different stores and their different prices.
Essentially, all of this comes down to hiking boots are an investment, so it's important to take the time to ensure you are getting the best boot for you. Now, thank you so much for listening. Next time, we'll be talking about how to deal with people. For now, this has been a day for adventure. Get off your butt, go outside, and have a fantastic adventure.